Coming from Columbus, I'm Chris Berry.
And hi, this is Jeff. And each week, in 7 minutes or less, you're going to get a rundown of the insights and innovation and activity happening here in the technology sector in the great state of Ohio.
So, Jeff, today for our first story, it's out of the Miami Valley region, so Springfield, Ohio, to be precise. And it's about flying cars. And this site is hoping to be crucial to development of flying cars. What it is a modular building and recharging station in Springfield. They're going to boost the progress towards viable electric flying cars and a new industry built around those vehicles. So this is kind of a combination between the Air Force, private advocates, public folks. But this is what Brigadier General Heather Pringle, commander of the Air Force Research Lab based out of Wright-Patt, said is they are fascinated by the prospect of flying cars, and they can't wait to see what this can do for not just Ohio, but the space in general.
Honestly, did they give any height? I mean, if the FAA is involved, there has to be some degree of regulation on, traffic, drone traffic too, right? I mean,
yeah. And so this is kind of why Springfield and the Dayton area are really key to this space. And this isn't the first time that there's been some really interesting drone and kind of aerial vehicle action, is because they already, it's called drones beyond a pilot's visual line of sight. So this is something where a lot of companies from like the East Coast, New York City, are coming to the area because, the high buildings and Manhattan and other places like that just don't really make it conducive to testing some of this. So this is definitely early technology, but at the same time, the forward-thinking work of the public sector, private officials, Air Force officials is really attracting out-of-state companies and out-of-state technology to test their work right here in Ohio.
Well, in fact, I mean, we're the first stop beyond the Appalachians that we're, getting into the plains. So I could see that's the geographic characteristics are in our favor, I guess, from that standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you have for story 2, Jeff?
Well, speaking of the Great Plains, would you like to go camping?
Sure.
So I am fresh off of a live press event starring Marcus Lemonis from CNBC's The Profit and CEO of Camping World, and Steve Burns, CEO of Lordstown Motors Corporation. So today in Lordstown, Ohio, there was a press event at the plant, and the announcement was that Lordstown Motors and Camping World are forming a partnership on many fronts. And I will be rolling some live video here to kind of give you some additional context to the event. But they're partnering on service, the multiple locations of Camping World across the U.S., and they're partnering on the development of a Class E motorhome, so going electric with the motorhome. Here we are at Lordstown Motors, about to start the press event. Marcus Lemonis, Steve Burns. This is super cool. I'm standing in the Lordstown production facility, way bigger than you could imagine.
So for us, right, we're already building and acquiring stores all over the country. We've announced 8 acquisitions in the last couple of months. We have 10 on the drawing board to build and more to acquire.
So Chris, that was pretty amazing, wasn't it? What's up on tap for story 3?
Yeah, so this is an Entrepreneur magazine article about 8 heartland cities that are what they say are essential to the future of American innovation. Obviously, when historically people think about technology, innovation, you're thinking really just a few different metro areas. It's places like Silicon Valley, Seattle, Boston, San Francisco, as I mentioned, San Jose, and really you have to be on the coast. But this piece looked at, especially as we're looking at the exodus and maybe some workers, there's been a lot of news of tech companies moving to places like Texas or maybe Miami, Florida. But this article pulled out a couple places in the heartland, and Columbus was listed as one of the 8. Certainly there's been a ton going on. Recently just had the 3rd unicorn happen and pop right in town. And so it's interesting to see kind of more PR happening for Ohio cities and places that aren't on the coast that can be really leading on the future of tech and innovation.
Yeah, I think the days of coastal bias are over, literally. With Ellison moving to Texas, Larry Ellison and Oracle moving to Texas, Elon Musk moving to Texas. I mean, Texas is a great state and it has a very distinct profile. But the natural resources, the infrastructure, the transportation, the financial services, healthcare, insurance capabilities.
Yeah, it does. And they mention groups like Drive Capital which have been instrumental in bringing investment and kind of having that thesis many years before COVID existed, certainly, and people were starting to look outside of the coast. And then also like Ohio State and just what a giant, large university, research university can do. And hopefully for all of us here in Columbus, the word doesn't get out too much so we can still buy homes and
well, I was going to say that
keep our nice cost of living.
Yeah, Columbus is definitely a lot of momentum. Cincinnati has a lot of momentum. Cleveland, where are you at? So, I'm allowed to say that. So anyway, but I think that's a wrap this week, Chris. So thank you everyone for joining. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, ideas, fire them up in the comments box below. We publish every Friday morning on LinkedIn as well as additional media platforms here in the very near term. So thanks for joining us, Chris, today.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching and have a great weekend.